Hi guys, live from our cryptid camper. I'm Tom, here with my good friend Shay, and we'd like to thank you for joining us on season 1, episode 16 of the Scare Your Pants Off an American Road Trip podcast. In today's episode, we are setting up camp in Florida. So, how are you doing today, Shay?
Great. We are officially old enough to drive
Oh
episodes.
yeah, we are. Wow, 16. Crazy. I know we say it
hmm
every week, but yeah, we are officially old enough to drive. I like that. I like that. So what's new?
You know what? I feel like I'm super boring and not really a lot of things are new. Have you, I don't know. Nothing really. Have you watched anything good? What have you been up to? What's been going on in your life?
Well, I mean, we talked about a little bit last week what I had watched, Yellow Jackets and Peacemaker, loving those. Yeah, I am excited. The Scream movie is out now, right?
Yes.
I
I
haven't
can't
seen it,
wait.
but I want to see that. A lot of good horror movies slated coming out. Texas Chainsaw Massacre next month, or I believe. So I'm excited. I saw a preview for the After Party. I'm not even sure if it's a movie or I think it's a movie on Apple TV. But I'm loving all these horror flicks coming out that I just can't. I really want to see that Scream. I liked the Scream franchise personally.
Me
So
too. Yep.
I'm uh, I'm really curious to see this new reboot or whatever they're calling it, because yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited and looking at the cast, I can't wait. I'm super excited and I can't wait to find out who's responsible this time because obviously we know who was last time. Um yeah, it's gonna be great. Oh, also towards I'm way in the future here, but it's me. And so obviously if I'm not mistaken, what else is coming out in 2022, don't you? That might
Well,
take place in Haddonfield, Illinois.
Halloween Kills in October, right? I believe it is coming out in October. Yeah, I
Yep.
cannot wait. I loved the last one. So, uh,
So good.
so this one's coming out. It's Halloween Ends.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah, I think this is Halloween End. Yeah, because I love Halloween Kills, and you know, a bigger presence of Laurie Strode in this one is what I'm told. So I'm excited for that. But I did like how, and I think we talked about it on an episode, how they basically set up the next Laurie. Like you were talking
They
about
did.
that, and I think that's great too, because I know it's going to be called Halloween Ends, but we know it's only the end of this chapter.
I
It's not
know.
the end. So
It's funny. I don't get super emotional over movies or anything like that, but I'm telling you right now, I'm probably gonna end up crying just a little bit in this movie because I think anybody who's a fan knows what this means. And anybody knows at least some of what's likely to happen in this episode and why they might have been setting up another Lori. And my heart's gonna break just a little bit if I'm not wrong. And I hope I'm wrong, but time goes
yeah,
on, so
yeah, it's I'm like, yeah, this is a lot of good. And then they're also making, I'm excited for this, making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game coming out soon. So
really, I did not know that. That's
it,
awesome, actually.
yeah,
Huh.
by the same people that made Friday the 13th video game, which I have, and it's a cool game, but there was supposed to be a lot more to it, and then there was lawsuits dealing with the rights and all this stuff, so they couldn't put on all those add-ons that they had planned, like a really cool story mode and everything. The game was just kind of in limbo. But this one, it looks really cool. I'm not a huge video game guy, but I do like horror games and stuff, so I'm looking forward to that too. A lot of good stuff coming up in the pipeline here, so can't
It
wait.
is.
I cannot wait. So, you got cryptid for me this week?
I do. So this one's kind of short, but there's this specific cryptid has an ability that I haven't seen in another one, so it kind of pulled me in and Now I just have to talk about it. So I'm going to talk about the Wampus cat. So just so everybody knows that it is supposedly seen in many of the southeastern states. So it's not just Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, and so on are places that have all had supposed sightings. So it's not Florida exclusive. The Wampus cat has green eyes, 6 legs, and a spiked ball at the end of his tail. So it's got like, yeah, right?
Ooh.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I know. There are some cases in which it's said to be bipedal and some cases in which it's said to be quadrupedal. Now, having 6 legs, the only thing that I found to be the case in both of those instances is that whichever legs it's not walking on, it's using to fight.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Right? I'm just picturing this thing boxing. I don't know what's happening in my head, but it's
yeah, I have a
very,
very funny mental picture going on right now.
Yep. All right. So from the 1920s to the 1930s, they were actually blamed in the newspapers for a rash of livestock deaths. So, like publicly in the media, the Wampus cat is blamed for attacking these animals.
Huh.
It's said that it's possible that the Wampus cat is half dog, half cat. It's only seen after dark. It howls and it has piercing yellow eyes. The cool thing about his eyes is supposedly they can look into the soul of anybody who stands in its way and drive them to the brink of sanity.
Wow. I love that description. Oh, driving somebody insane. That's awesome.
Yep. Now, not a lot of details are given of any accounts, but what I can say is that the most recent sighting of the Wampus cat happened in 2021. So it spanned decades. Yeah, that's all I have for that. But I had to touch on it because of the peeking into the soul. It just that I've never heard that about another one before, and I like it. It's really creepy.
I love that description. I'm so glad you picked this because when we did North Carolina, I remember reading about the Wampus cat, and I was so drawn to it because the word I just love Wampus. I love that word. It's a funny word. It's funny to say. It makes me smile every time I say it. And but I didn't do a ton of research on it because I had gone with the siren for that one. And so I'm glad you picked it because I was really curious as to more about it. The small ball on its tail. I'm picturing, and I can't remember the name. My cousin had one when we were younger.
Like a morning glory, right? Kind of.
Like the thing. It's like you hold the staff or whatever, the handle, and then it's a ball, a chain with a ball and spikes on it that you would swing around like that.
A morning star, something morning, isn't it?
I think there is, and I think there's another term for it too. That's just the mental picture I'm getting, like that, where you know. So I love it. You know, anything that can possibly be bipedal to me adds a creepy factor to it too, because we just associate animals with 4 legs, stuff like that, you know, and or even if they had 2 legs, they're still using their arms as kind of, you know, as, you know, legs. So, and uses the other legs to fight. I'm almost like, I got a mental picture of like almost like an octopus walking on 4 legs, but using the other 4 to box people and stuff. And,
exactly. So, that's all. And I don't know how it really fights, but I'm picturing it throwing punches or something. But absolutely.
Yeah, for some reason in my mental picture, he's got boxing gloves on the other ones too. I don't know why.
No, mine too. I swear to God, same, exactly the same. The first time I was picturing, I'm like, it's got boxing gloves on, so obviously.
Oh, and then again, going just back to what you said, staring into their soul, driving them to insanity. So good, such a good, just power, whatever you want to call it. I mean, And like you said, it wasn't super long, but it was dense with detail, which I loved, and just like the pictures you get coming out of it was so good. Like the mental pictures I got, what a good choice. I love.
Thank you.
I love it. Love it. All right. Well, this week I have the hauntings, the haunting, and I almost picked something, and I did some research on it, and we'll talk about it some more later. But I decided to go with the Annie Little Elementary School, or sometimes known as the Devil School. Have you ever heard of this?
Nope. Anything in a school, though, I'm here for it. And especially like a younger grade school, kids are creepy. And I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm totally here for it.
Ghost kids are creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Located in
real
Jackson.
kids too.
Yeah, yes, that's true. That is definitely true. Located in Jacksonville, the school was first conceived as the Riverside Park School, a small wooden schoolhouse with only a few rooms, and it was built in 1891. In 1901, it was declared a fire hazard and shut down, and this was in response to the Great Jacksonville Fire of 1901, which burned down a very large portion of the city. So they shut the school down. In the ensuing years, the building was rebuilt, much bigger this time, and now made of brick. So, less prone to fires. It was the fourth public school building in Jacksonville, and was originally called Public School Number 4. Makes sense.
Very creative.
Yep.
Very, very creative.
Very on the nose. It was later changed to the Annie Little. I hope I'm saying that right. It might be Lytle. It's spelled Lytle. It was later changed to the Annie Little Elementary School. And it was named after a beloved former teacher and principal. The school was built with 4 large pillars at its entrance and featured a large auditorium and a fireplace in the center of the cafeteria. The classrooms were on the second floor, while the cafeteria, offices, and auditorium were on the first. The school stayed open until the 1960s. And it is until the expansion of the interstate put a major interchange directly in front of the school. So it went in front of the school, and now it isolated that school from the neighborhood that it was supposed to work with, or whatever, And not only that, now because of the interstate interchange, now the classes became super noisy because of the cars and everything, and really smelly from the exhaust and carbon monoxide and all that stuff. So it was shut down. And for the next decade or so, it was used as storage for the Duval County Public Schools. But then in 1971, it was they took everything out of it and just left it to rot and decay. In the ensuing years, it became a hangout for locals teens looking for mischief. The building's windows were smashed. The walls were covered in graffiti. And then in 1995, somebody set a fire, which caused part of the auditorium ceiling to collapse. So So it just was in real bad shape. So why is it called the Devil School? Because that was just seemed like some normal history with some, not great things, but it doesn't lead to really why they would call it the Devil School. Well, I'll tell you. There's a few legends that gave way to this moniker. The most famous of which is the legend of the cannibal principal. So,
Yeah, you have me. I'm here. I'm here for it now. Yeah. That's
According,
creepy.
yes, according to the legend, bad students would be sent to the principal's office for a chat, but then they would never be seen again. Officially, these students were either suspended or expelled, but many of the students did not believe this and actually believed that the principal was consuming their peers. So, and that he even converted the closet in his office into a meat locker where he would hang the students on spikes until the time where he had more time to be able to fully consume their bodies.
Wow, that's yeah.
Yeah, right. According to some versions of this legend, that many of the faculty members too, like the teachers and Janet, whatever, were in on it, and the principal was the ringleader, but a bunch were in on it. The next legend was about the school's evil janitor. The legend states the janitor would kidnap unsuspecting students and bring them down to the boiler room and then boil them alive. Like you do in a boiler room, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it says it right in the name, so.
But after a bunch of victims, one student was able to escape. But in the ensuing struggle, some things got knocked over and stuff, and it led to an explosion and a fire that killed multiple students, and as well as the janitor. And the ensuing fire shut down classes for a while. And when the classes finally resumed, it was now haunted by the dead students. And supposedly you could see students sitting at their desks and walking the hallways. You could hear like disembodied voices, some chattering, laughter of little kids. Some claimed that some of the faculty, you could see faculty members walking through the school. Your standard sort of haunts, but with the amped up creepy factor because it's elementary school kids. So banging and on walls, stuff like that. And supposedly this, coupled with the trauma of the fire, caused a bunch of the faculty to quit, which I could understand too.
Yeah, it's not a great work environment.
Another legend is again about an evil principal, but in this version, he outright murders the students. According to the legend, the principal had been going mad from stress on the job and was just really tired of these unruly children and students. So one day he snaps and goes on a rampage, murdering the students via blunt force trauma, leaving trails of blood in his wake. Pretty brutal.
Yeah, I would say that's awful.
Yeah. And then the final legend I'll touch upon claims that satanic rituals take place on the school grounds. Some say that they started decades ago by members of the faculty, and others claim that it was after the school closing when it was left to kind of rot. People would go in there and do their satanic stuff, and you can actually see in the graffiti upside down crosses and pentagrams. So some people say it was afterwards. And then just in more recent times, in more recent years, the grounds were named a historic site. I don't have the actual year, but it was just in recent years, in the last decade or two, it was named in a historic site. So that is essentially the Devil School.
Great choice. And I can't hear about a boiler room they and kids and not. I mean, I feel like you know where my mind's going.
Yeah.
It's very nightmare for me.
Yeah, it's it's very Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy story. It's very, the boiler room, the fire, everything. Yeah, definitely I got to feel that feel for sure.
So I can't believe this is a phrase that I ever say, but it's true, is at least in this case, I really hope he ate them and didn't do the other thing. That's awful. That's not that eating them is better, but I mean,
I agree. The blunt force trauma, there's a brutality to blunt force trauma that is uncomfortable. I mean, murdering people, whatever, it's all uncomfortable. But when you get into some blunt force trauma, there's this brutality aspect that just and then they're children, they're elementary age students. So it just adds this, I don't know, icky feeling to it. So I can definitely see there. So go with, see what you think of this. So I'm thinking about this, and these are legends, right? And they're pretty wild. A guy's got a meat locker in his office eating them, or the janitor that kidnaps him in the boiler room, or the faculty being in on it. So they're pretty wild, and our listeners out there be like, well, that clearly those aren't true, and you may be right, but go with me on this a little bit. I want to see what you think. So we're going back, this school was originally built in 1891, and, then it was closed, rebuilt, but operated pretty, after, 1901, pretty much all the way up until the 60s, it operated. And we know, attitudes towards children and students and how we treat them has changed over the years. I mean, even in the last couple decades, like what's allowed and not allowed anymore, like spanking and, not being spanking. But so these are wild, but I feel like there could be a grain of truth in here because we know, in schools, kids could get beat and stuff. We knew school was way different than it is now. Yep. And, maybe the principal really was a bad dude. I'm not saying he's a cannibal or a murderer, but maybe he was really tough on punishment. It talks about these, numerous kids getting expelled and stuff, and the faculty gets brought in, and maybe there were some mean teachers. Now, remember, these are elementary school kids. You know what I mean? So it's tough to look at it through the lens of an elementary school kid, but think about when you're a kid and the things that you believe and the things that you could convince yourself to believe and scare yourself with and everything like that. So maybe, and this is, and listeners, if you disagree, tear me up on the messages or whatever, send us emails and stuff. But I mean, maybe it wasn't cannibal and stuff, but maybe there was tough stuff going on. You know what I mean? Maybe these kids were getting hit. Maybe and now these are little kids, and their imaginations is running wild, and and then it's kind of like the game of telephone, where it's I say a couple words into your ear, and then you say it to the next person, and then it's completely different by the time it gets around the circle. So maybe that's my thought. So maybe some bad things. Maybe the janitor was a bad dude. Maybe there was rumors about him that he did some bad things, that, the kids, and just these legends kind of took a life on their own. I could be wrong on that, I could be, and they could be, but it seems like, why just make up these stories out of the blue to me?
I think part of it that stuck out and it supports what you're saying, honestly. It's part of it that stuck out to me too is you said that they would say that the kids were either suspended or expelled or whatever. I mean, how hard was it for an elementary school student to get expelled back then? It's not even super easy now, and
Yeah.
it is super easy now. But it's back then. I don't think that was a super common practice. I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but I don't think they got expelled or suspended very easily at all. It's very different than it is now. Kids interacted differently even with each other back then. A fight on the schoolyard is broken up and you get a little slap on the wrist and
Yeah.
you go back
That's
to class and you do your work.
That's a great point, actually, that you say that because, that's true. I have never known somebody to get suspended or expelled from an elementary school. The first time I've ever
Mm-mm.
heard of people getting suspended was in junior high.
Yeah.
You might get a 1 day or a 2 day or an in-school suspension. So that's actually a great point too. It's yeah, I don't, like I say, people may say, oh, that's too wild, but I'm just saying there may be a grain of truth in there. There may have been some bad things happening. Was he a cannibal? Probably not. Probably, because after a while, these parents would probably be looking for their children and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a chance of, maybe some bad things happened in that school. I found it a fascinating story. Those stories, that's what got me, was the story of once I read The Cannibal Principle, I was like, yep, we're talking about you.
Yep. No, honestly, it's a great choice, and I never heard of it, and it's anything in a school creeps me out, honestly, because it's supposed to be an innocent,
Mhm.
fun, learning, whatever, and it's to throw evil into the mix. It truly gives you like a chill, and it's not like any other haunting when it involves young children like that.
Yeah, I agree. It does add an extra layer of creepiness to it. So
Hmm.
cool. Cool.
All right, so I have the strange encounter today.
All right.
Did you know, fun fact, that Florida is the #2 state for UFO sightings?
Really? I did not know that, actually. I did not know
Hmm.
that at all.
You okay?
I thought I heard my phone go off, but I don't even know where my phone is. Sorry. I was
Oh, no,
like,
no, it's okay.
I huh. Oh well, whatever.
Um, okay. So this incident takes place on November 11th of 1987 in Gulf Breeze, and it is a series of photos taken all by one man from his front yard.
Oh,
So his name is Ed Walters, and he took a series of photos from his front yard of UFOs that he had sightings of. And he released them all to the media. So he shared them, what seems like pretty instantly. So he took them, shared them, trying to get the word out. Some years later, he moved out of his home, and the people that moved in after said that in the attic they found UFO models that were made out of paper plates and cardboard and other crafting whatever material, and that basically proved that it was a hoax, supposedly. The original photographer claims that those things were planted, and the photos that he submitted were actually investigated and checked, and there was no faking found. They could not decide whether or not they had been tampered with because no tampering was evident. There was no evidence of any manipulation.
okay.
One other key fact here is that he wasn't the only one to have these sightings. Now, this UFO sighting has very small amounts of detail. Not a lot of claims, not a lot of anything. All I could find is that other people saw it, but not a lot of detail went into any of the reports or anything. But that's all I have for that one. And I wanted to do it even though it was short, because one factor in this really just kind of drives me crazy is if he wanted to pull off this big hoax and he wanted everyone to believe him, why would he leave that stuff behind in his attic and not know it was there or something?
Yeah, that's what that stuck out to me too. That's very, yeah, it's and that's something that we've seen in other ones too,
Yeah.
and it just never makes sense and it never sits right, because it's like these people, like, if they're going through that all that trouble for this hoax for whatever reason, whether it's just 15 minutes of fame, whatever their reasoning is, I find it hard to believe they're gonna leave such apparent and obvious evidence of this hoax. It does that doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
And
And if
then
you Google the pictures, they don't. I can't see how they're paper plates or whatnot. It doesn't look like they are, honestly.
yeah, and you said they were investigated, these pictures, and that people couldn't find how it was a hoax. And we know now with like the technology, they can break down these photos quite a bit and like
Yeah.
and just tell so much about it that it seems crazy to me. It's like, how can you tell all that from, but it's like the makeup of the film, whatever it is. And so the fact that experts aren't able to conclusively be like, no, this is fake, that also sticks out to me. And it's always, for me, and we all have different issues, and there have been hoaxes throughout the years, but
Yep.
for me, it's always comes down to why would that person do it? Like that's the issue I have with most stories. And unless we find out that it was a hoax and we find out their reasoning for it, that they just wanted to be in the newspaper or whatever. But it's like, in I would say, 90% of these cases, it comes down to this why, and that can never be fully explained to me properly. So I love the story. I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm really curious on the pictures too, because
They're neat. I mean, keep in mind that it's from the late 80s, so that they're not the best quality pictures, and they had some possibilities to how it could have been done, but nothing definitive. Nothing definitive ever said like it was absolutely double exposure. It was nothing. They tried and they really made some assumptions, but nothing that ever came to fruition.
So yeah, no, I love it. That was a great choice.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Florida is a fun state. It's a fucking weird state. And sorry, I don't swear much on here, but it is a weird state, Florida. You get the whole Florida man memes and stuff, and all that. But it was a lot of fun.
I'm really enjoying being in Florida too. Actually, it's quite nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess that brings us to this. Guys, we've had such an awesome time, going through all these states, checking out all these states, stopping by, camping in all these states. But there was so much great stuff in Florida that we have decided to stay an extra week in Florida. So next week, when you tune in, we will again be back in Florida. So I'm really excited. Thought we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I know
too.
I know you're a big fan. I'm really excited, guys. I mean, we're excited for all these episodes, guys, but make sure you check out next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a real good one. So you got anything else, Shay?
No, I think that's everything.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And make sure to tune in next week when we stay set up in Florida. Thanks, guys.
Bye.